Hello, good evening. Thanks for those who are tuning in. Bear with me, I'm just about to add in both James and Sam, so if you give me 1 minute.
Okay. I got it straight at the same time.
Hey, good evening.
Oh, there he is. Good evening.
There we go. Sorry, I just turned the camera off while I was inviting you in. So, look, thanks for tuning in, guys. Bit of an impromptu one here. So, just a bit of a pre-introduction. Over on the page on Facebook, yesterday, one of the guys who contributes on the page, a guy called Jamie McGaffigan. He started a bit of a slip up straight away there. He started a topic on Corgi introducing some new prices ahead of their 2022 catalogue launch. And as you can imagine, it went down, well, I was going to use like a sack of you know what, but like a Led Zeppelin, and I don't mean the band. So it created quite a lot of debate, quite a lot of heat, quite a lot of emotion. So what I thought we'd do is we mix it up a little bit tonight. So obviously we've got the old Northerner stalwart James who's on, but we'll do introductions in a minute. But Sam has very kindly volunteered to be a lamb to the slaughter tonight with us. So what I do before I start, I'll hand over to Sam as you're the newbie. Let's get it out the way first. So do you want to do a little bit of introduction about yourself, where you're from? I sound like Cilla Black now, don't I? But anyhow, if you want to crack on, mate.
God, it's like being on Parkinson. That's Sam from South Cambridgeshire currently. Yeah, that's about it. Obviously, I suffer from the same affliction as you can see as as James and Mark there. But no, yeah, really madly into aviation. I mean, living sort of equidistant between Shuttleworth and Duxford hasn't really helped, or has helped, I suppose, in whichever way you could look at it. But yeah, that's me. Currently working in insurance, so obviously tell you all about price increases and what's going on in that particular industry. But it seems to be affecting everything, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly has, mate. No, thanks for coming on, mate. Thanks for, like I said, it's good to have different collectors on and people who obviously contribute on the page as well. And I know you're always on there, so it's great to have you on. And obviously the first of many, hopefully. So, hand over to you, James. Do you want to introduce your name, age, sex, sexual preferences?
James, hello. Blackpool. I'm the northern representation to the group, as Mark so politely keeps reminding me. I work for the NHS, but you know, don't hold that against me. I'm really quite a nice guy. Started collecting about 2004, give or take. My collection is all predominantly Corgi 172, and it's themed. It's Bomber Command Malta, BBMF, Luftwaffe Night Fighters, the US and Europe, Hurricanes, the Poles, new theme. It's cost me a small fortune, no thanks to the Polish Heritage Flight, and the Hawker Typhoon. It's all World War II. Nothing against jets. It's just I have no room for jets, and that's me.
Right, I suppose I better do evening. Plane Collectors on. Nice to see you on. Again, another person who's constantly on here as well. So, just in case anybody's new or relatively new to the page, so I'm Mark Stringer. So I'm one of the trio who run and started the page when it was originally the Corgi Diecast aviation page, which we changed to DWC. And one of the people who helped that is Gary, who's not on tonight. And of course, Dan, a lot of you know Dan, who obviously started it on Facebook with me many, many years ago. So I'm a massive collector. Been collecting since about 2006. So the old Model Zone days, I'd pop down to the lakeside of Bluewater when the missus would drag me down there. And just spend a small fortune while she'd be shopping. I'd just be harassing the people in Model Zone, just talking to them about planes and just really enjoying it. And so this year is the first year I've managed to get all my collection out and about. I'm sure you've seen some of the videos. But just add a little bit of background to me, because sometimes I just sort of steam in and don't really talk about what I'm doing as well. But look, thanks guys for coming on. I really appreciate it. So look, before we start, I did a bit of research. I sort of almost went semi-professional tonight and did a bit of price dig in. So before we get into the chat, so just a little bit of the comparison. So just going back to the start, so Corgi have announced a mass of price increases. Now I want to keep this balanced tonight. I don't want it to be an attack on Corgi, an attack on Hobby Master, an attack on the industry, because it's not about that. It's more a discussion and what it does for the hobby going forward. But like I said, quite a lot of emotion involved around it. So let's just go through some of the prices now, and I believe the prices before, because you can't find them on the internet. I'm just going on what I can remember. So a 148 Phantom or a Typhoon, the new tool Typhoon, is now priced at £179.99, gone up £30, so from £149.99 to £179.99. The 148 Bristol Fighter is now priced at £84.99, and that is an increase of £15 from £69.99. The 172 Zero and World War II fighters, so the single engine fighters, they're now £59.99, up from £49.99. It's not a little bit cheaper, because some of them, like the Gladiator, were £44.99 as well. So between the £10 and £15 increase. The 148 Lightning, a brilliant bit of kit, those who've got it to know, is now £159.99, up £30 from £129.99. The 172 Corgi Catalina, the Pearl Harbor one, this was one of the cheaper twin engine ones, believe it or not. This was priced at £89.99. It's now £119.99, so a £30 increase on that. Although it did feel a little bit cheap at that price, let's be honest, but you can get a Mosquito for near enough the same money. The big one, which is sure to cause a lot of offence, is the 172 Vulcan, and that is now £239.99. Yep, that's £239.99. When it first came out, it was 140 quid, if I believe right, and that's gone up £40 from 109.99, which is pretty big. The Beaufort, which is obviously not out yet, it should be out at the end of January, hopefully. That's now £84.99, up from £69.99, so a £15 increase. This one also caused quite a bit of ruckus on the page. So the 172 Mosquito, which is a 20-year-old mould, is now £87.99, up from, I believe, £69.99, but it might have been £74.99, because I don't think it was particularly cheap. So it's around about £15 increase, between 15 and 20. A 172 Tornado, so unlikely to see these again, if I have to be honest, with Hobby Master making them now. That's now £94.99, up from £74.99, so a £20 increase. And James's favourite, the 172 Lancaster, is now a stonking £184.99, up from 160 quid. So as you can see, the inflation now is, I'm guessing, around about 20%. Without doing the maths off the top of my head, roughly there or thereabouts, which is, well, inflation's tracking at what, 2.5%, between 2.5% and 4% UK wise, so it's massive. So now I took a few notes down, so I'll hand this over to the boys, because I feel I've talked too much in here. So I put a few sort of headers down. So the current climate. So first and foremost, do you think this is justifiable? Sam, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think you look at what's sort of going up in general. It's not, obviously it's not limited to diecast model collecting. It's sort of everything you can buy, see, touch, smell. Everything's going up, and then the things, of course, that you can't touch, like energy bills and whatnot. But I sort of believe that if the product is good, then people will still buy it. But I think there's a potential imbalance. Like if we're talking specifically for the Corgi range, there's a bit of an imbalance between the actual products. I mean, in terms of, like you say, you've got the new toolings, which are, wow, fantastic. Bristol Fighter, the Beaufort, which is coming along, absolutely amazing. But then on the same side of the coin, you've got the 172 Mozzie for similar money, which is still, I think it holds up quite well. But do people want to pay 80, 90 quid for one? Possibly, I would suspect not. And I feel most for new collectors, because the people who have got established collections, we're probably by and large fine, because we've got most of the things that we want. But for the people trying to, perhaps younger lads, maybe younger than me, who want to sort of get into it and start buying these things, then it's really tough, because they're going to be the ones on, little to no income. So it's like, how do you attract younger collectors with these sorts of increases going up and up and up, especially when you don't have the bricks and mortar stores that in the kind of exposure that you used to have.
That's some really good points there, mate, to be honest with you. James, what are you thinking around this?
Sam's touched up on a lot of it, to be fair. He's nailed a lot of it on the head. It's the biggest one is you've got to find that happy medium between the collectors you've got that are old, you know, they've been here since the start, and getting new people into the hobby. New people, you know, the younger person now, you've got Xboxes, you've got PlayStations, you've got all these sort of things. It's a really difficult one to get into, and it's not easy because less people are going to get into the hobby, and more people are going to leave the hobby, and they've got to compensate somewhere. You know, it's the whole thing. I mean, I understand that, you know, we've had Brexit, prices are going up exponentially all over the world. I get that, you know, an increase is needed, but you've got to balance it out a little bit. If you're going to increase one thing, maybe decrease another thing. You know, it swings and roundabouts. You've got to find the right medium. And bear in mind, a lot of people now, you know, they're either self-employed or they've all probably had these government handouts to help them along. They're now going to have to pay them back. People haven't, you know, pardon the French, but people haven't got a pot to piss in. You know, a lot of money. 240 quid for a Vulcan. That is, you know, that's half the price of a mortgage a month.
Yeah. Incidentally, in 2015, when was it 2015 the first Vulcan came out?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah. People were sort of moaning about the price then, if I seem to remember
140 quid when it came out.
And people were pretty riled about, you know, spending that much on a diecast model, especially because of the diecast sort of plastic content. Impressive model, though it is, lovely model. But they had to, and that wasn't, you know, Corgi cheaping out. They had to do that because of the tolerances. I understand. But yeah, people were moaning about that then. And look sort of where we are now. I mean, I don't know if you adjust 140 quid for inflation, what it'd be now, but I don't think it would be 240, you know?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, like, my thoughts on it are sort of touching on what James said as well. You know, when I first started, the very first model I ever got was we bought a flat and we were struggling to make ends meet. In 2006, we bought a one-bed flat and paid 140 grand for it. And we were both working, me and my missus were both working, not earning amazing money, but it was hard. You know, we'd pay our bills, you know, maybe have a night out a month, and that was it. You know, that was pretty much how we used to do things. And I remember walking past Model Zone, and I got a jumping jack 132 Mustang in 132 for 30 quid. And, you know, I know it's chalk and cheese now. You look at how much it was in them days, and Model Zone and the overproducing, which Corgi used to do. That was doable. You know, if you think of a kid, now you roll that back, a kid's at an air show and he walks past a Corgi stand and they've got the toys, which are great, but he's outgrown toys. He's 11, 12, 13, whatever it is. He's with his dad and he's got his pocket money. He's not going to have 60 quid unless his mum and dad are, you know, drug dealers or got a very, very good job. They're not going to have 60 quid to just go and throw a 172 Spitfire, Messerschmitt, whatever it is. And that's where the new collectors get in. But also on the flip side of that, if you think of the people who started 20 odd years ago when the aviation archive started, and obviously there's lots more producers and, you know, the stuff like, you know, Hobby Master are massive now, and JC Wings and Caliber, brilliant model makers out there. A lot of those will now be pensioners because, let's be honest, this isn't a kids thing, is it? In a lot of cases, it's people who go to air shows, who picked up them and go, oh, wow. Or actually, my hands are getting a bit dodgy now, my sight's getting a bit dodgy, I'm going to move away from Airfix and get something that's a bit more chunkier and pre-made for me. They'll be now in their pensioner years. There is no way they're going to throw that sort of money at model planes because, let's be honest, they'd rather put meals on the table 7 days a week than have a diecast Spitfire sitting in their cabinet gathering dust. And that's the problem for me where, I mean, we get to it in a minute, but I look at that now and I just think when the catalogue came out last year, I contacted Andy Beck at Lofty's Hobbies. Little plug for you there, Andy. And I said, I want this, and this. And I won't be doing that this year. I can't. I'm going to have to be so selective. I know, obviously, they're not going to they're going to do 3 different catalogues, which is good and a bit more exciting. But that announcement yesterday has taken a lot of excitement away from next week. It sort of killed it for me a little bit. But it's, you know, it is what it is. It's the current climate. I mean, last year it cost me 50 quid to fill my car up. It now costs me 80 quid every time I do it. If I do that twice a month. So that's another 60 quid I'm out of pocket with. That's another model a month, in theory. Or McDonald's, or whatever it may be. You know, there's so many different factors you need to factor in. The problem I see, the big problem, is that once things go up, they don't generally come back down again. Unless something mental happens. Regardless if the price of metal or shipping goes down, I can't see Corgi going, right, I'll tell you what, we'll put that back down to 50 quid again. Because what happens is once that money starts rolling in, it becomes, I'm not saying it becomes greedy, because every business, the ones we work for, whether it be the NHS and the private companies who fund it or do the separate bits, everybody's in it to make money. The business I work for is in it to make money. You know, insurance is in it to make money. And that's the whole idea and the name of the game. That's how we put food on our table, by getting paid by companies who make profit. So you can't blame Corgi, but also, sorry, just I feel like I've taken over a bit and it isn't about that. You know, looking on the page the other day, somebody said who works in import-export, said now a container, which was £8,000 to truck across from Asia, is now 18 grand. You've got to find the way to cover that. And it's, the world has gone to, dare I say it, has gone to shit. I think is a fair enough word. So apologies when kids are watching, but it really has. And it's pretty grim at the moment, isn't it? So, and yeah, look, so on to the next bit, the next sort of strike I put on my notes. So again, I'll go to James first in this one. So future of the hobby and the future of Corgi. What do you think it looks like?
Weak. It's going to dwindle down. It's inevitable. The prices you've got now, they're just going to dwindle and dwindle and dwindle to the point where people are going to, you know, just simply not going to do it anymore. You know, it's not because they don't want to do it. You know, nobody wants to stop. It's because they can't afford to do it. It's ridiculous. It's, you know, and Corgi are going to just... I don't think Corgi are bothered. You know, I don't think they mind if they disappear. You know, because they've got Hornby, they've got, you know, everything else. That's all there for them. So I think Corgis, sometimes it feels like an afterthought, and I don't think there is a future for it. You know, not unless you're a millionaire. If they're gonna increase the prices every year, you know, let's say 8 years from now. 8 years from now, how much is a Vulcan going to be? A brand new Vulcan. It's
same price as a Tesla.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People aren't going to do it. So somebody at Corgi gets paid a lot of money to figure this out, to do the math. So they've already got a plan. They already know how things are going to go. But maybe this is what all these massive price increases are for, because they're planning on just slowly, you know, wearing it down and crumbling. Milk us for everything they possibly can and do it that way. Concentrate on Airfix. Airfix, you know, did well during COVID. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's great.
Just before I get to Sam, I've just seen, obviously, please, guys, ask some questions. I'm taking notes as I go on. So JDB272, I've got your question. And that's a really valid point what you said. He said the issue with that shipping container argument doesn't work for models already in the country. And I've got that. I'll build that into the question at the end. But guys, if anybody wants to ask some questions that I could put to these two lovely chaps, please write them in the comments and I'll note them down as best I can. And he's also, I've got another one as well from you, JDB272. I'll take that down. But so over to you, Sam. So what do you think about the future for the hobby and the future of Corgi?
I mean, if we start with the future of Corgi, I think when the catalogue drops on the 10th, I think we could see a bit of redemption there. in terms of if they're, you know, I'll give it to, if they're like going to be investing in the range, it'd be interesting to see what the capexes are in terms of the new toolings and what's coming out. If they are sort of putting the money back in, then maybe it might be time to call off the dogs and say, oh, yeah, hold on a minute. Actually, they are, you know, putting the money in, but at the same time, the delays, I think, as well, and you touched on this on your last live, you guys, the delays in the actually getting the models to people's doorsteps and into the warehouse and out into, you know, being distributed. You did touch on this, and that I think that causes problems in itself, because two of the models that have sort of spilled over into 2022 were two of the ones that I most wanted. So the Albert Ball SE5, I was really excited about that. You know, read his someone wrote a biography on him. I read it, I loved it, and you know the exploits of that pilot, brilliant, great choice. But then it's taken sort of how long? And then obviously the Beaufort as well, which I think hopefully those two are around the corner. But yeah, I think it's going to be tough going forward if you're not sort of made of money. I mean, my sort of financial situation, I'm quite sort of fortunate to have a good enough job to support this madness. But yeah, it's tough. It's not gonna, and it's like I touched on earlier with the new collectors as well. Without the new cohort coming in, there isn't really a future. And because obviously, as Mark says, the pensioners get older, and then it all sort of spills over. But I think we'll see the increases, and then I think it'll reach a point where there's going to be a bit of a price war. So you can have a bit more discounting, which is not in the long term good for the hobby, because you know you guys are probably old enough to remember the quote unquote dumping days. That could well make a return, because you know people could really en masse turn around and not purchase these things, and you know, and it would be a shame to see them sort of be dumping at prices that they don't afford. It's a tightrope balancing act, you know. What can I say?
I think for me, it's interesting to see how their competitors react to it. So I think Hobby Master, just checking their prices, and they've announced Special K, the A26 Invader, which will be absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
But that's going for about 90 odd quid. So the Invaders, when they first come out, were 65. So obviously they're not immune for it as well. But it'd be interesting to see, because Hobby Master pump them out, obviously, at quite a large amount each month. So their releases may be samey, but I get why they're samey, because they mass produce an aircraft and then put different schemes on it, which is really clever, which helps keep control of the price to a degree. Where Corgi have reined it right in to 1,000 or 1,500 runs, so that keeps the price high. So them years ago when they did, you know, if you think the Battle Britain Memorial flight set, the Hurricane, Spitfire and Lancaster, they produced 4,500 of them. I mean, like 4,500. Now that seems like madness. But that kept
I've got
price down.
in the loft the Blitz set somewhere in the loft, the Heinkel and the Messer and the Spit, and I looked at the cards, like 4,000 produced. It's like, well, where, you know, it's a lot of big boxes.
Yeah, but that would, again, the more you produce, the cheaper it is. But because of the mistakes that Corgi made before they were owned by Hornby, and, you know, let's be honest, whoever was consulting them, it was like, you know, ridiculous. So some of the releases were plain stupid, let's be honest. You know, there's no nice way of putting it. I do get their reluctance to go for it. So they've not gone full Labour government under Tony Blair, where they just spunk money left, right and centre. They've reined it right in. So I do get that. But then on the flip side, that means they're not producing nowhere near the amounts. But if you look, actually, through the pandemic, there's a lot of lines on there. Like if you think, for example, the centenary tornado, the commemorative tornadoes, the last three, they're still sitting on the site 2 years after they come out. So actually, that says to me that people people have had to rein it in. You know, it's been a tough 2 years. People have lost their job. There's been no price in the civil service. There's been no wage rise or anything like that. People are reining it in, and of course, you know, talk the petrol argument. It's gone from £1 a litre to £1.50 a litre, and you know, that's 60 quid a month. If you've got 2 cars, 2 working parents, that's another 120 quid a month you're taking out of your budget. You know, just little things like that.
Yeah.
They all add up. I don't want to sound negative. I know James is northern and he's not, and he's meant to be bleak because you know it's always raining up there. It does worry me. It really does. You know, this is part of the reason I do and run the page and do stuff like this is because I love this hobby. I love aircraft. I love being able to have an aircraft I've seen, maybe sat in or been next to. I like having a collection. If I have one, I've got to have 21. I can't help it. It's it's an addiction. So they play on that. But I look at this now and I just think, yeah. And also, you know, the next question, which I'm going to throw to you guys, and part of me, my eyes light up at this, but also I'll get a little bit upset as well. The second-hand market. So, do you think this is going to have a massive knock-on the second-hand market in terms of prices of our collections? Do you think our collections will be worth more, or do you think it's already too flooded and there's so much out there that it's not going to have an effect? So, over to you, Sam, first for this one.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it depends on what it is you're selling. I think with and the channel you use to sell it as well, because remember eBay, you know, making their fees, taking their cut. So you've got to factor that in. I've already sort of seen eBay prices going that way, but it could, I suppose, if new models are quite, and this goes for Corgi and HM, if new models are quite expensive to come by, people are going to be turning to those sort of used channels. So it could be good perhaps for the collector who maybe who has the capital but doesn't have the space. So you're changing a lot. You're buying and selling a lot, which is something I do a fair bit. But yeah, I mean, eBay is a funny old. I suppose it's a double-edged sword, because if you're looking for something, the prices are going to be higher. But then if you're selling, the prices are going to be higher. So when you said, it makes you smile and cry at the same time, that's sort of hit it on the head. Because if you're looking for particularly something that's quite rare, and you know, something with maybe a smaller run that's not really out there so much, it might be quite difficult. But it's only as much insofar as people are willing to bid up that high and pay those prices. If they're not and they don't have any money, you're not going to make that big buck on selling. So I think with that one, you know, time will tell. Time will tell.
That bidding bit, we named something a few years back when we was on another forum, myself and James. We call it the Kent Spitfire Syndrome, where people would bid for something and pay 3 times the price of what it really was worth. And then when you tell them they paid 3 times the price it was already worth, they'd lose the plot with you. As I remember, a guy spent, was it close to 150 quid for it, James, at one point?
Well, that was the going rate for it.
That's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. But you're right, you know, something's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And if you get 2 people on a lucky day who want to go completely mental and they've got 150 quid in their account and they want to buy a Sailor Milan 172 Spitfire, then good luck to them. But I'm a bit more of a penny pincher in that. And I know certainly that Northern fella is as well. I don't know why, but my ALEXA keeps flicking for some reason, thinking I'm saying it, but I'm not. So please don't mention it. So James, over to you, mate. What do you think?
Like Sam said, it depends on what you've got. You know, some of the stuff we had that was highly sought after then isn't now. It's, you know, and the problem you've got are these, similar to these scalpers you've got that buy all these consoles that you see on the news and whatnot. You know, without mentioning any names, there's certain sellers on eBay that will buy anything and then they will just increase that price tenfold. And they don't need to sell it. They can charge whatever they want and they've got the monopoly on it. So ultimately, if you decide you're going to sell, you're probably going to end up selling cheaper for them to sell higher. You know, it's the futures for selling it's horses for courses. I mean, just looking at what I've got, there's some. Friday the 13th, for example, I'll use that. It's the one I can see now just by looking at it. Friday the 13th, Halifax, back in the day, it was like the holy grail of some of the bombers. It was so highly sought after. And it went for...
Yeah, I'll see that as well, James.
Yes, Jay, yeah. You know, and now it goes for half the price. It's still as rare as it was then, but it now goes for half the price that it did. It's madness. People are just slowly slipping away.
Yeah.
You know, for every 5 people we lose, we're maybe getting 1 that comes into the hobby.
Yeah.
And I also think as well, and maybe it's just me, but the new collectors are more erring towards jets than they are what Corgi produce. Hence the reason they're getting on the 148 market. That's what it feels like to me. So I'm a throwback. I've always loved Spitfires, Hurricanes, rather than Tornadoes and Typhoons. I've always been that way. You know, I'd rather fly a Spitfire than fly with the Red Arrows. That was always when I was a kid. I always believed that. I don't think nowadays, I think more are into that jets. Because let's be honest, Hobby Master do great. As much as they do quite a lot of samey releases, they do some brilliant jets. They've nailed the Tornado now, haven't they? After that abomination, the first 2 releases, they went away and fixed it after the kickoff. But that also then flipping it round, people need to sort of vote with their feet a little bit. And if they said, "I'm not going to pay that for a Lancaster," then potentially they could be sitting on it. I'm not suggesting to not go and buy Corgi products. I really ain't. But what I'm trying to say is that people might not be able to afford Corgi products. They might go, "Do you know what? I'm going to take the missus away instead to Portugal this year with the kids." Because that's the sort of difference you have to make. You know, that's when you get up, when you become an adult, that's the sort of decisions you have to make. Do I buy a Lancaster or do I pay my council tax? You know, that's what it comes down to. It really does.
Yeah. Use that Vulcan as the prime example. £240, you know, and there is no denying the Vulcan. It is a nice bit of kit. Yep. You know, I don't have any Vulcans. I don't collect jets anymore. I used to. Don't tell Matt I said that. I used to, but I don't anymore. 240 quid. No matter how good that thing looks, it is fantastic. 240 quid is still 240 quid. You know, that 240 quid could pay for endless amount of things you need around the house.
That's exactly my point. So the first thing I thought was that's 3 return tickets to Faro in Portugal for me, my missus and Ray from Southend, plus a taxi to and from the airport. That's 240 quid. Bang, straight down. So that's and that, you know, we lucky we know someone whose place we can use over there. So fundamentally, we've got a holiday out of that, a basic holiday before we spent money on food and stuff like that. That's the comparison you're making, or a Lancaster to go with your other 19.
Yeah,
but a Lancaster just melts into the other 19, doesn't it? Let's be honest. It's lovely. You get it out of the box, you put it on the side, you take your pictures. But if you've got a load already, obviously I'm not suggesting that everyone's got a load because they haven't. But for example, Jason's got 600 Lancasters. He's got a bloody massive bombing raid's worth sitting in his collection. Is that other Lancaster going to stand out enough?
Well, as it stands, I've got 1 Code 3 Lancaster. I've got every release.
One, isn't it?
Yeah. But other than that, I've got every Corgi release they've done. Every 172 Lancaster I've got, and I've got the Code 3. But I haven't got the new one, and I've got no intention of getting that new one because, as nice as it is, it's different. It looks so. The grog shot.
Yeah, the yellow tips.
With the yellow wingtips. Yeah,
it looks unique compared to all the other Lancasters. It stands out. It's got yellow fins. It's got yellow tips on the wings. It's different, but there's just no. There's too many of them. They're coming.
Lancaster. That's the reality, isn't it? It's just another Lancaster.
Yeah, that's it. And you think, you know what? When you've got 550 of them, you think, do I really need 551? It's, you know, Corgi throw the Lancaster out that often that people are losing interest in it. You should just have a 2-year gap. You know, no more Lancasters for 2 years, so that when the next one does come out, people go, no, that's nice. I like that. I'll buy it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think with the Lancaster, I think we are due another Dams Lanc, definitely.
Yeah, but who? I would love for some of us guys that collect to be invited by Corgi on a professional level to sit in their boardroom when they discuss what they're doing, why they're doing it, and what the costs are.
Yeah, to be a fly on that wall.
Yeah,
I'd love to. I'd love to.
Because I want to know the person that's in that office is he just a plain and out businessman that is after money and nothing else for the company? Which, if he is, fair enough. I've got no, ultimately as a business, that is what you want. It's all about money. So I can't argue with that or whinge about it. Or is he a collector? Because if he was a collector, I'd love to sit down with him and go, look, you're a collector. You're probably creeping around on the bloody Facebook page. You're there somewhere like a ninja. What's going on? You're charging us more and your quality control's going down. It's...
Yeah.
I don't know. But
we
you don't
talked obviously earlier about monopolies,
Yeah.
So Corgi they have the 172 Warbird market, especially at the premium end. They have it. So there's not much else to at least in terms of sort of the other manufacturers, the ones that pump the jets out. There is a little bit more going on there. And for Great War, we can't forget World War One either. That's Corgi own that completely.
Yeah, massive market. They're brilliant. Let's be honest. Look at the Bristol Fire. The Bristol Fire is just sensational. The second one I've got inbound at some point, and I spoke to a lot of the lads. So I'm a little group with my airshow group is. I'll call them out: Matt, Kieran, Elliot, Jim, and Greg, and they absolutely. I think they had accidents when their Bristol Fighters turned up. They loved it that much. And it is an amazing bit of kit. It's a brilliant bit of kit. And they've nailed that to the T. And it's, for me, it's another level. Like the Typhoon should be. It should be another level. The last Phantom, the one that's just come out, that is another level. And the first one is glorious. And they've now added the cockpit to it. So they're doing great stuff. But sort of like Christian, when he added on the previous video, and I'm sure you watched it, Sam, the real big thing, now, which they have to get it right. If they're going to announce price increase like this, they need to get the quality and the accuracy and the detailing absolutely spot on. Because if they don't, now they will trip up like they've never tripped up before. But how they go about that is a different matter. So they're building them in China, they're painting them in China, and they're adding the details in China. Who is the boots on the ground there, making sure that that factory is banging them out at the right standard? So I know obviously Noel Caliber, he's great. I know he has his moments, bless him, but Noel got frustrated with his factory because they couldn't meet his standard that he set. And that was the reason. And he got so frustrated. And that's the one thing, not the collectors going, oh, there's a paint smudge underneath the left wing that wound him up. It was a factory not being able to produce the standard that he demanded and wanted for his product. Corgi,
and all credit to Noel. All credit to Noel. He was on the ground at the factory, personally QCing the models. Put out on Facebook. Do Corgi have a similar presence? Do we think? This
is precisely it. So the Vulcan, the last Vulcan. Let's touch on that. Come back with a white belly when it should be grey, right? Now that £240 product, that Vulcan should be taxiing up and down my hallway for 240 quid.
New Wellington.
Yeah, the Wellington. And that's over the show, isn't it? Let's be honest. And that, for me, is the communication between Corgi in Margate and China. Something that's got lost in translation now. Because actually the pre-pro looked a hell of a lot better than the actual product in the end. And I know...
But who decides? Who looks at the pre-pro and speak? And I mean, I know they speak to people on the DAF, on the Diecast Aviation Forum. They're in direct contact with Corgi. And I know that, they check the pre-pros, they have a look at them, correct things. And it always comes back to Corgi's way of doing it. So they
I don't think it's Corgi who are making that call. I think the factory are implementing it wrong. And this is my point I'm trying to make. I don't think the communication between Corgi and the factory is good enough. There's something very wrong there in the bit in the middle. There should be a man in the middle who goes to the factory and go, right, you bunch of dipsticks, this is how it's going to be done. And before they've knocked out 1,000 of them and gone, oh yeah, we mucked it up. The first one off of that thingy should be on a video call to Corgi HQ. They should be looking around it and going, right, is that the colour that I set? It isn't. Why is it not that colour? Right, run me another one. And then get it right. So what's happening? We're getting a pre-pro going, yeah, you correct this, correct this. Then they're knocking out the 1,000 run before really looking at all of them. It's a very simple process, you know. In retail, and I'm sure you remember this, James, is do it right first time. You wouldn't change 15 promotion ends wrong and then go and do 15 again. You do one, make sure it's right on the next one. And that's how you do it in retail, and that's how you do it in life. You know, you wouldn't paint your wall wrong after testing 20 different paints and going, oh shit, should have painted that blue there. But I'm going to do it all again. It's simple communication. It's between one end and the other. And I think obviously we can give them a little bit of a free pass because of what's going on with COVID, because people can't jet between the UK and China, China and UK. You know, you can't do that. But there's got to be people, they've got to have their finger on the button. They've got to be so close to it now, they cannot slip. And I know, speaking to Michael, and we spoke about this, but we were practicing, Michael is so passionate about the job he does. You know, I absolutely endorse Michael Clegg to the hill. However, he can't do it all on his own. He ain't in the factory. He ain't deciding what gets released, what new molds come in. He can just advise. There needs to be someone who's coming down hard. If you're spending thousands upon thousands of pounds, and that's what they're doing, they need to make sure that that investment is justified. And if that factory isn't good enough, well, guess what? Go somewhere else. But that's a story. That's another question for the end there. I'm going to stop for a minute. What's that, mate?
Does Michael get gypped for being a northerner?
Of course he does. Of course he does. Come on, it's a cave. You're cavemen compared to us Southerners.
Says the guy with that thing on his face.
Oh. Look, I'm going to go to some of the questions from the guys who've sent them in, which is mainly Jason and JDB272, who's been very active on there tonight. So thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm sure your missus are probably battering you, going, "What are you watching these three prats for?" No offence, lads. I'm including you in that now. So the first one from Jason, we rotate. So guys, if you do have any more questions, just get them in the content in the comments now. James, you can keep an eye on them. So first one from Jason is, what do you think the price of a 172 fighter will be? Do you think it will be 80 quid this time next year?
Depends.
Yeah. As I say, depends.
If you look at the 172.0, 60 quid.
Yep.
60 quid for a 172.0. As far as the fighters go, the Zero is the most bland of every World War II fighter plane there is. The plane itself is a phenomenal plane. That's unquestionable. It's a phenomenal plane. But as far as when you get it, it is a very, very bland plane to look at. 60 quid for a very bland plane. Hobbymaster, their 148 fighters vary from 65 quid for a new release to 100 quid. So I don't know. It depends. It depends on what they do with the run number, I think. I think they're gonna make it look like they're gonna try and please us. So some might dip a bit in price, but to compensate others that we really want, they're gonna increase in price. So maybe the Zero, for example, the £60 Zero, maybe they drop it to 50 quid. But a Spitfire that we all want, they release it for 65 quid.
Yeah. I
think they'll chop and change so that we think they're doing us a favour, but at the end of the year, they're still going to get the same, amount of cash regardless. So it depends. That's what I think, anyway.
Sam?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to probably agree with James on that one. The Zero, it's a nice enough shape, but it is sort of a clunky little thing. Quite unfortunately. I know obviously the most recent one they tried to sort of mix it up, Pearl Harbor sort of bluish tail. It looked alright, but it didn't really want to make me part with the one I got from the previous Pearl Harbor anniversary. It just wasn't enough. Do I think it will go to 80 quid in a year? Probably. I'm going to say probably not. I think there is, with these increases, now we've seen two sort of quick succession. But I think from a business standpoint, I think there is a limit to how much the market will take of that. I think there comes a point where you have to sort of use your head a little bit and think, well, are these increases recouping enough in terms of how sales are going? Is it all working out? Because I think there needs to be, if not like a freeze, if you will. I don't think it will go down, but I think it needs at this point to freeze, to cool off a little bit, at least for the next year. Because if it carries on the same trajectory, what Corgi will be, dare I say it, in a bit of trouble.
I think you're right. Absolutely right. I think, to sort of echo what you guys said, I don't think it's going to hit 80. This could be a masterstroke, and they could just be pretending to whack the prices up, and suddenly the catalogue comes out and it'll be cheaper. I don't think it is, but you can live in hope. I think you're right. I think it will stabilise. I think this price increase is probably to cover for a couple of years, because last time it went up from 40 to 45, they left it a couple of years as well. I think looking into the future as well, I also think it might help fund some new tooling. There might be a little bit of hidden agenda behind it. But I'm going to move on to the next question, because I think it's a really, really good question. So JDB272 asks, before I go on to it though, I've got your question, Plane Collector. I've written it down, so we'll go on to you next. And then we'll flip back to Jason and JDB272. So why are the existing models, which are already produced, gone up in price? Which I think is a really, really clever move. And that's what makes me think, is that for new tooling? Because they've produced them, they've sent them in most cases, most of the aircraft that are already either here or have gone. Is it to cover the shortfall because, oh shit, the prices have gone up as we sent them? Or is it to actually go, do you know what, we're going to bank some money here to invest into new tooling for the brand?
They need new tooling. Whether they want to do it or not, they need to. Because we're having this whole video chat now because, there's a bit of a sour taste about things. So a new tooling would cheer people up. And I think a price increase could be for that, maybe. It's just speculating for now. I don't really want to guess too much.
Oh, Andy from Lofties is on. He must have heard that I shouted him out. There must have been like a call for his house. Evening, Andy. For anybody who don't use Andy, who's in the UK, top man, by the way. Yeah, look, another little plug for you, mate. Sorry to interrupt you there, James. No,
you're all right. You can go over to Sam now. He'd probably be better to answer that one than me.
So, what's the question we're on? Sorry, hold on. Starting up.
So what's happened? By the way, James, sorry, just to say, Kay Klee asked what the question was. Do you like planes? The answer for me is a category.
Do we like planes?
Which kind? Well, the kind for like doing wooden doors.
At the moment, we hate them anyhow. Since a couple of days ago, we do. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to you.
No, absolutely hate them.
There.
Far away.
So going back to JDB272's question. So why the existing models that are already in the collection, like the Tornado that's produced 2 years ago, suddenly taking a £15 jump when it's been sitting there gathering dust?
Well, I think it's a company-wide thing for Hobby Hobbies. We saw this with the last increase with it when it went up 10%. Everything had to go up 10%. I don't think they're sort of singling out one product, because it's the same with Vanguards as well. So and everything, all the rest of it, all the trains, But yeah, I guess it's less felt on those because they start around 30. Maybe go up to maybe 60, 70 with like a 3 set or something. So it's not, I guess it's not felt as much, but I think it's a Hornby wide thing. So you have to keep that in mind. But yeah, I don't know. Weird because you got these Tornadoes that aren't selling. and what do they do? They
whack them up 15 quid.
Well, why not?
The really good point. And it's Jamie. Thank you. So I've got to call you by your really long Instagram name now. So Jamie, that's a really good question. I've got a few more for you as well, Jamie, which we'll get to in a minute. So I'm going to go to Plane Collector now because I know he's been on the entire. I need to show that, so it makes it sound almost professional. It's been since we started.
Can I just quickly go back to I've just been having a quick think. Sorry, Plane Collector. I think the prices on the Corgi website have gone up because nobody buys from the Corgi website anyway. Everybody buys from the likes of Jumblies, Antics, Lofties, which is a great customer service and a great guy to buy from. Another plug for you there. You know, everybody buys from those kind of people rather than Corgi directly. So Corgi can put the prices up ready potentially for the next lot of tornadoes we're going to see because nobody's going to buy from their website anyway. So if they think, well, let's just stick the price up 20 quid. Nobody buys them from us anyway, so nobody's really going to notice. And then when the next lot come out, they're already with the 20 quid, price increase. So we'll see. Anyway, yeah.
That's going to be passed down, obviously, though, to the wholesalers as well, the likes of Andy.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, it's quite a concern, isn't it? Let's be honest. That's a really good point, though, Jamie. You've hit the nail on the head there, which is you've outthought them a little bit there. But just going on to Plane Collector, so he's been watching all night. So I definitely need to ask Andy. He's a massive supporter of the page as well. So thanks for your support, mate. So, is the competition from other brands good enough to change Corgi's current strategy? So I'm going to start with that. I don't think. So if you think of like other brands, so Hobby Master very much do 148 World War II, which is completely different to 172 World War II, and they concentrate on jets. There's a few bits and pieces in 172 jet. They don't do obviously like the A26, the A20, and stuff like that. I don't think they don't deliberately tread on each other's toes. I think if you look at someone like JC Wings, for example, their Spitfire and Mustang is the old witty Sky Guardians mould and isn't sufficient. I'm liking what Forces of Valor are doing. I like the fact that they're not putting, and this is where these sort of companies can then, I wouldn't say necessarily steal Corgi's limelight, but I like what Forces of Valor are trying to do. I think they need to execute it a bit better, but they're using different older tooling. With their newer tooling, I think they're going to be a real threat to both Hobby Master and Corgi. I don't think it really affects them. I think they're in a league of their own because now obviously they're doing the 148 jets, which, since the demise of Franklin Mint and Carousel, we did the 148 stuff. There's nobody really to compete with them. Obviously, 148 Carousel was World War II, but you get my drift on that. They're operating in different markets, so I don't think that it's almost like a gentleman's agreement. They're not treading on each other's toes. I don't think in the jet market it's quite like that. I think Hobby Master, Caliber, Century Wings are all knocking out F-14s and then you've got the Phantoms and stuff like that, which is a bit naughty. And with obviously Hobby Master jumped on Noel's toes of Caliber when Noel announced the U2 and they got their U2 out first, which has probably put paid to the Caliber U2 because I've not seen any more information about it. So there is more, I think, more competition between the South Asian distributors, the producers like Hobby Master and Caliber and JC. But because Hornby/Corgi are UK based, other than Oxford, which technically falls into Corgi, there's nobody this side of the pond who does anything remotely competitive with them, other than Schuko, who did the JU52, obviously in Germany, and did a really good job of it, but it isn't actually as good as the Corgi one. So I think Corgi are in a realm of their own, and I'm not suggesting that gives them this gangster like, I can do what we want, because I don't think it's like that. They're not arseholes. I just think they don't have that pressure to a degree. Unless one of the bigger boys, like the Hobby Masters, suddenly go, right, do you know what? I'm producing a 172 Spitfire to go along to outdo you in case you try and introduce a new one. Or I'm going to do a 172 P51 on the level of Dragon to outdo you on the Corgi one. I don't see that. I think it's almost like this, let Corgi get on with it because we're not really too worried about them. That's what it feels like for me. I don't know. James, what do you think?
I don't think Corgi are bothered. as far as 172 fighters go, well, 172 anything, Corgi have got the monopoly on it. They are the go-to. There's nobody that can compete with Corgi, really. So until somebody comes along and can provide a 172 plane that's similar to or as good as Corgi's for cheaper, then Corgi aren't going to be bothered. Corgi will just do as they please.
Yeah, fully. I think coming on to the competition thing, I perhaps don't see it as quite as black and white because, what happened with the Eurofighter, Hobby Master dropped theirs and then, didn't seem like too much longer the Corgi announced, oh, we're doing it in 148. So I think there is a bit there, but it's sort of it's going off in the background. And it's the same thing with the Tornado. Corgi seemed to release 4 in 1 year, and then Hobby Master go, but we're retooling it. So I think that there is a little bit, but I guess it's not overt.
No. So now moving back on to Jason, who's asked about 700. Can you hear me all right? We can hear you okay, Sam.
Yeah, we're good.
No, I completely agree with you. I think that's why I think they get an idea if something's coming from either way. Obviously, Hobby Master retooled the P40, but they did it in the M version, didn't they? They didn't do the early ones like Corgi had done, which is interesting because it's a completely different type of model, isn't it, in reality? And then Corgi didn't get that right first time. They did with the canopy, but thankfully this time round they seem to have done a really good job, which is good. I'll find out next week, hopefully, when the new one arrives. So, moving on to Jason again. The Airfix hasn't gone up that much in comparison to Corgi. I think it's because, if I to be honest, Jason, I think it's more to do with the materials, mate. Plastic vacuuming is nowhere near as expensive, and it's also considerably lighter when you're packing it, so you can get more in each box. So I'm guessing that's probably why it's gone up at a fraction of the percentage. But it won't be immune to no price increases because labour's going through the roof as well, isn't it? And there's a lot more rules. You've also got to take that into account, and that sounds silly. And a lot of it was moved to the Far East for labour costs. But you've got to remember the Far East now, post-COVID, labour rights are a lot higher than what they were 5-10 years ago. People actually have to care about the people who work for them now. They can't just let them pass away on the shop floor. There's lots more rules and regulations coming in the Far East as well. So that adds factor because people need to be able to live and survive. But no, so getting back to the Airfix bit, I think it's more to do with the material costs there, mate. But that's also an interesting point. I know it's just going off on a tangent here. But with plastics and stuff like that, surely they've got to have a look at an alternative source within the next sort of 10 years and stuff because of oil and bits and pieces like that. That's going to be an interesting factor because further down the line, plastic is going to cost a bloody fortune as well.
Oh, definitely.
Would you buy a bit of die-cast? Let's use the Spitfire. Spitfire's a good example.
Yeah.
Would you buy a Corgi Spitfire if next year Corgi decided to cut costs and they said, right, the 172 Spitfire, we are re-releasing the Spitfire, it's 40 quid, and it's going to stay that way for the next couple of years. However, the fuselage is die-cast, but all the wings are plastic. Would you buy it?
Probably not the Spitfire. Probably not the Spitfire. Again, it depends what it is because I think if you take, say, the Hobby Master MiG 23, the fold-out wings, they're plastic. So, and it's done quite well as a tooling, hasn't it? It's had a lot of releases, and it's done pretty sound. But something as iconic as a Spitfire, I think it would be sacrilege to do a die-cast one that's half plastic. It just wouldn't do well.
I've just had another question come through. Sorry, that's why I sort of flicked off a little bit. So Ionist, hopefully I'll pronounce that right. said, do you think Corgi should do a Lancaster of Johnny Johnson next? For me, 184.99, I'd say no. But if it was a little bit cheaper, I'd say yes, absolutely. It needs to be done, but I don't know why it hasn't been done.
If it was 200 quid, I'd say yes. I don't care. If it's 250 quid, I'd say yes, because the guy's 100 years old. He's 100 years old, and we've been crying for this goddamn Lancaster for the last 10 years, and we still haven't got it. Instead, we've got the likes of Barlow. You know, fair play, you know, they were all heroes. That's Johnny Johnson.
He's slagging off 617 now.
No, it's Johnny Johnson, isn't it? He's the last surviving British dambuster.
He's an icon.
You know, and the guy is an absolute legend. Everybody's the dambusters, like, they sell. That is it. They always sell. There is no question about that. So why they have not done the last surviving dambusters Lancaster yet is just mind-boggling. If somebody at Corgi's watching this, pull your finger out your arse and do it.
They didn't do Dick Cole's
clock's ticking, isn't it?
From Doolittle Raid. Dick Cole, it was the last Doolittle Raider left. Great opportunity to have done something in the last few years. And when they were, obviously, they used to all meet, didn't they, with the cups? I don't know if you know about this, the Doolittle Raiders. And when one of them passed away, they turned the cup over. And Dick Cole was the last one, wasn't he, I believe? So they didn't do anything with that, which feels a bit. And that's opportunities. And this is where you're talking about collectors, people who know their shit, or people who know they are shit. And that's you know, that's something I would love to, you know, I talk about being involved, and I don't know nothing compared to a lot of people on the forums. I really don't. I don't pretend to. I just really enjoy this hobby. But what I bring is passion and want to do something because it's the right thing to do, and utilising, obviously, your brain and going, do you know what? Does everyone else think like that as well? Going, do you know what? Why don't I go and do a bright yellow Spitfire in a Mark 16, which is probably the most mark of Spitfire, I guess. Would that sell? No, of course not. You want to do something that's got commerciality, and it's also got a bit of history and stuff around it. So I often, we talk about, you know, with Matt, we always slag him off for his fascination. I don't know if you know Matt, Sam, but Matt Stevenson, shout him out here. He's got his fascination for Japanese jets. Yeah, for me, they might look pretty, but there's no history, no combat.
You mean
history.
like the retirement
planes,
like the retirement F4s?
That and they're lovely looking schemes. They're beautiful, but there's no history around that. I like to see an aircraft that's got real history. A Falklands Vulcan, get that? A Falklands Victor, because my dad worked on Victors. Absolutely love that's something along that line that gets the juices flowing, and it's got real history, combat history, an iconic pilot. Like a Stapleton Typhoon. When I looked at that, Stapleton he went to Hornchurch, operated out of Hornchurch, which is just literally around the corners here. It was personal. So I'd met Stapleton at Duxford Flying Legends. So again, it was something that I was like, wow, I love that. Not everybody can meet people, but something that, like I said, has real. You look at that aircraft and you go. And when I'm old and grey and Rafe's in here and he's got his grandkids with him, I go, do you know what, that plane now, that was involved in the Dam Busters raid, one of the most iconic raids you can ever do. And there's a film about it with Richard Todd in, who plays Guy Gibson, and little things that tie everything together. So you haven't just got an aircraft that's like, yeah, that's all right. Yeah, it's got to be. It's got you tell that story, you get emotion involved, and you can tie everything in. That makes you not necessarily salivate, but it makes you go, I want that. I want that because it is what it is. Not because it's a pretty F-15 with a bit of red on the top wing that looks like it's been painted by Stevie Wonder. Matt. Sorry, where was I? What did I start ranting about? I don't even know.
Can we start off like a new video in the week? Can we just have a slagging off Matt's collection video in the week?
Oh dear. Not much love for Japanese stuff tonight at all.
No.
Oh dear.
Which is very pretty, but then that's the beauty of this hobby.
Did you get the question about the 172 B29?
Yes, I did. That's the next one from Jamie. So as we know, it was one of the aircraft that come out on top of the pole. I think the Victor actually won it, in all fairness. But after speaking to Michael, he did confirm, obviously on the, I don't know if you see the Advent calendar video, which I shared on the page.
Yeah.
Excuse me, a bit of drunk too much Pepsi Max here. The 172B29 is on the agenda, has been discussed, but it's that cost versus commerciality bit. So asking for 172B29, how much do you think that would be? I'm going to go above the Vulcan. I'm going 260. I really believe, I think in terms of the diecast content, I think that would tip it over the 250 mark. What do you guys think? I mean, it's just a guess, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I mean, I think even if you could realistically engineer something like that, you know, to fit it in a box, you think about how massive the wings alone would be. I think you'd have to maybe make it. You'd have to do something with it. You'd have to make them. I don't know whether you'd make them detachable and to have a stand that would support that as well. Content.
Yeah, you'd need plastic. Oh, yeah. You'd have to have plastic because that big, the wings would just fall off. They'd just fold.
Yeah, the weight.
I'm going to say 200, 220.
Yeah, I'd go around the same as a Vulcan, 240, just because of it would have the similar sort of complexities.
But the thing is, as well, would you pay that what you've just said for a B29?
No.
Of course not.
And that's where the problem lies, and that's why actually looking at the decision not to release it so far probably it's justified. Because let's be honest, we're free. You're a big collector of bombers, and I know you're not. A US isn't your strongest thing. The thing is, although I say I wouldn't, I know actually I probably would. I'd look at it and go, "Oh, that's nice, isn't it?" And then before you know it, it's in the boot of the car, and you're driving back at 120 miles an hour.
Yeah, before we know it, you're dusting 26 of them off on top of 40.
Yeah. You'd need like a Mitsubishi Outlander to get it home, you know.
And no cabinet would be big enough to put it in.
No, and that is a big factor. You think I mean, a lot of people have the Deltoffs, which are by IKEA, which are decent cabinets. I think it's fair to say there's not a chance in hell that is going to fit in there.
No,
and that's a big problem.
That
is a big. No, I don't think a Sterling fits in it. I think didn't Dan have one at one point? Had to put it on top. I'm pretty certain that. I mean, even the Moore plans, which are amazing cabinets. I don't know if you guys have seen them. They're absolutely phenomenal. I really don't think they'd even fit in them. To be fair. Oh, where's he off to? You ain't going to take us to the toilet, James, are you? Oh, thank God for that. Getting a little bit worried then. Thought he was going for a number 2, Sam. So I was getting a bit panicky.
She's just off up to.
Yeah, sure, and I think it's an interesting point you make, because I think Corgi's sort of foray into the 148 jets. I've got, you might be able to say, I've got the 148 Lightning. It's actually sat on top of the cabinet because it just will not go in there with the 172 stuff, because it's lovely, impressive, but it's just too big. It's too big. Unfortunately, I did get it at quite a steal, £77 Amazon Prime sale. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I got the silver one, the Tengar one, RF Tengar, Singapore,
it's that one.
Yeah, and my missus bought me that. And do you know what? What a piece of kit, though. And, you know, when I got that, I was pretty ashamed of myself not getting it in the first place. But I got the Phantom just before Christmas for my birthday, and I picked that up for 60 quid. And, you know, I know it's the original naval Phantom without the cockpit, the fancy cockpit and whatnot. But my word, what a piece of kit. And I don't know if you guys follow the Diecast Aviation Collectors page on Facebook. I know Chris Lawless, who runs that page, has just got his Phantom, and he's added bits to it, like the lad, he bought like an after-set ladder, I think, some ground equipment to go with it, and that really sets it off. And that, for me as well, is something that if Corgi want to make a bit of a point for them, and like Forces of Valor done with the aircraft I've just reviewed, the big difference for me, I know they've got the stand that adds a little bit to it, and it's a bit cumbersome, but no, it adds something to your display. They've obviously got the spinning propeller thing, which isn't for me, but for some people that would like. The bit that really sets it off for me is a display base, like the old Dragons used to do, James. I know I bought a couple of P47s off of you, James, didn't I, years ago when you were spinning out. And that adds something to your displays. It jazzes it up. And I think Corgi, if they're going to start charging these prices, need to do a bit more to justify it. And I'm not suggesting they need to have more metal content or make the way they put things together more complex. I just think they need to do something a little bit smarter to just add extra to your displaying. I mean, that's for me. I mean, I like innovation. I like to see not the same thing, a box, a model, a stand, up and down undercarriage. I want to see something that's a little bit different. I'm not saying it should be taxiing around or the pilot should be waving at you out of his cockpit. I just want to see something that changes just the way things are. Sorry, you can see pen has leaked all on my hand there. Taking notes. Thought I had some sort of cyst or something there. But I think we just, we're in it is a bit of a crossroads, I think, at the moment. It worries me.
The thing, at least with Caliber, with take the F-16 and you've got the sort of the engine on trolley and all the sort of bits that come with it, and the F-14, all the stuff you get with that. It would be nice. I mean, display bases are sort of lovely. And Corgi used to do that. So look at the old Jolly Rogers Corsair. They used to do that. Yeah. They used to do that kind of stuff.
What's that? Yeah, that's one of my favourite aircraft.
And they're no strangers to that. But that was like Corgi Classics type thing. That was before Hornby Corgi, which I think it just doesn't get the love that it used to do because the management is not the same. They're not. That's not their sole baby anymore. So it just won't get as much attention as like the stuff that they used to do, which I, really loved, and it was great.
Yeah.
So moving on, I've got a couple more questions from Jason. I'm sure he's back in now. And I mentioned this on the initial Corgi Catalogue announcement. Do you think it's practical to move production back to the UK?
That's a tricky one to answer because without knowing the costs behind everything, it's just speculation. Yeah, it's a good idea. It would certainly save us money. It would save us our packet. But would it save Corgi money? Would they make anything from it, or would they make a loss? Yeah. Without looking at their books, I've no idea. But yeah, it sure as hell would make life a hell of a lot easier for us.
There's been a lot of investment and how much return on it. That's what it comes down to now. CROI, cash return on investment as we use during resale. I'd like to think it would, but let's be realistic. Everything this side of the water costs us a bloody arm and a leg. We're taxed to the air we breathe practically, aren't we? So I guess there's lots of implications there. Import, export, you'd have to import metal and
let's just use steel. Labor. Just use steel from Sheffield. Make our metal steel.
We're down there smelting it in the yard.
Yeah.
Sam, any thoughts on it?
I think it would be a lot of things would probably have to fall into place. So, you'd have to find the right manufacturing plant. It'd have to be done to a good enough standard. Historically, hand built in Britain, is it a bit's going to start falling off it like they did on the old flipping Austins and what have you. It's not a great hand built in Britain doesn't fill me with confidence. But having said that, they could maybe as like a trial sort of run where you make a few in this country and then see what happens, see if you're still making a good quality product, even if it meant that production runs had to come down, and then but that would, I think in the short term that would just increase costs anyway because it's change. You'd have to. It's the logistics of doing that. In the short term, that would just send prices up anyway before they came down. So, yeah, probably not viable, but a nice thought, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it's more. Yeah, is it practical? Probably not. A final question for Jamie, or for those who've not been on, JDB272. He's asked, why do Corgi not listen to us collectors? I'll start with that. I think now the relationship now is better than it has been the last 5 years. But I still think there's a lot of work to do. And again, I think it's like James said, you know, there's definitely people with passion for the brand, passion for the product in there. But it's that balance of passion versus money men. I don't know. We have no idea what that looks like. Because we're not, like I said, we're not the flies on the wall in the boardroom. I've certainly got a guy running Hornby who's passionate about models and whatnot in terms of TAF. I'd love to be able to pick his brains. Really would love to have him come on alive. So TAF, if you are watching, which I doubt it, if you do want to come on and chat all things models, then please do. But you know, he's clearly someone who's passionate for the brand. They've got the guy in Hornby himself. I can't think of his name now. I can see him. Simon Kohler, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's obviously passionate about trains and all things locomotive, and you can tell that when you've watched the interviews and stuff and that with him. But getting back to what you said about Corgi, and we brought this point up a number of times, is that they're all fighting for the same piece of the pie, but Corgi's getting a very, 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 they're just getting the crumbs. They're getting no filling, they're just getting a little bit of base and a little bit of lid and nothing inside. And it does feel that way. It feels that way. So when you look at the Hornby, the model world, or whatever it is, the program, Corgi isn't really featured as strongly as Airfix, Hornby, Scale Electrics. Dare I say, even Humbrol Paint at times. It may be a bit of fifth. I don't think they can change that. I don't know whether it's going to be up for sale or anything like that, but it's almost like all four of them can't compete for the same thing. Something's got to give. And I think Jamie's right. He said they are going in the right direction after a few abysmal years, but it feels like they've taken a step back. To a degree, I think the actual releases have been good, I think, but when they get it wrong, they're really getting it wrong. And again, it goes back to the quality control. And, you know, I know Christian was really, really passionate about it. He's probably still in bed, bless him. That's why he's not come on to watch. He's probably staying in bed so he can watch England get absolutely annihilated again tonight. It's, you know, there's so much to take into control, but we don't run them. All we can do is just keep constantly feeding back and saying, well, this is good, this isn't good. But again, guys, what do you think around that in terms of how they're listening to collectors? Or not?
No.
Right.
No, I don't think they are. I think they... I think they pretend to listen. They make it look like they're listening to what we're saying, and they'll say, yes, guys, we've heard what you're saying, we will act on it, you know, and then they don't. They revert back to doing it their way. You know, I don't know if it's a trust issue or I don't know, but if they were to listen to, I think they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. I think, you know, you have to cut Corgi a bit of slack here, really. You can't give them too much jip for it, because if they do listen to us, that's great. If they don't listen to us, then they're terrible. You know, but if they do listen to us and something goes wrong, we're not the ones that have to deal with that. They are. You know, so you can, it swings and roundabout. You can see why they don't interact in the...
I'm going to say it, Condor. The Condor. That, you know, and
yeah, why would
they're so passionate. There's people out there who really believe a 172 Condor would sell. A 172 Condor, which clearly now would be north of 250 quid, right? And I love all things aviation. Yes, an iconic aircraft. But if you're going to introduce a brand new tool, you need to have multiple schemes for it, multiple variants, multiple reasons to produce it. Could you produce
famous pilots, stroke incidents, you know?
Yeah, no. And the answer is no. Yes, I'd love a 172 Condor in my collection.
172 what?
Condom. A 172 condom. It's a very small condom. It'd probably fit me.
Yeah.
Condor.
172. Yeah.
But why right. You know, and this is what we're talking about. The old Corgi would have gone, yeah, let's go and do that. Let's invest 20 grand in some tooling and knock out a 172 Condor, and then sell 3 of them. But it's just not for me. It's just not iconic enough. And you look in the forums, you know, it's great Russian aircraft, Japanese aircraft, Italian aircraft. They're lovely. I'm so eclectic. I can collect them all. But not everybody's like me. You know. Now, would you sell 1,000 units of a CR-42? Probably not now. Once the fighter collection gets there flying, potentially you might. But right now, no, it's not. It's a tight. It'd be that small. I'm not talking about the CR-42 here, by the way. So to clarify that. That's what we're talking about, and I think it's got to be. You've got to strike that balance between commerciality and actually, is it wanted as well? Because producing something that's going to cost thousands of pounds, you know, and it's not our money we're talking about. So it bombs. It could send the business under, and it would also then potentially create even bigger price hikes if it doesn't go under. So that's about getting it right, and I think they balanced it relatively well the last few years. That's why it feels like a bit of a shock to see these prices come down.
Yeah, I think just coming back to what you were saying about like sort of listening to collectors, do Corgi listen? I think by and large they do as much as they can, but in terms of it's how people interpret listen, because yes, they probably hear what we're saying, but they can't, because they're fourth rate in the Hornby world, they can't go out and then produce such and such. So I think it's a bit tough in that regard, but I'm sure they would love to do all these. And you mentioned about the sort of the Italian, the Russian stuff, the Polikarpov, the Stormovic, whatever you want to see. It'd be great, but then you can't do one as a standalone. You have to, but once you bring one out, you have to sort of make it a bit of a collectible item. So you'd have that's two or three new toolings that you'd have to make. So that's the real cost of that. You know.
Yeah, and knitting that story, isn't it? It's creating that story, that background. So it's great having a Yak 3 sitting next to a Spitfire, but they wouldn't really have dealt with each other at any given point. No. Now they might have dealt with a mesh. No. Maybe you can put it with the Messerschmitts and stuff like that. But you're right. You know, you start one Russian, you have to do 3. You start one Italian, you have to do 3. The rule of 3 is pretty evident, because you need a theme for it to go together. Sorry, Jamie's just said about a new Mark 9 Spitfire. It's been asked for feedback. I'd love a Mark 9 Spitfire. As long as it's on par with the Gemini, I would be over the bloody moon with it. I really would. And MH434, absolutely, a license to print money. And MH424 as well, which is stunning. Absolutely. Love a Mark 9 Spitfire. For anybody who don't know, I was going to turn it around. I'm looking at my Spitfire Bay now. Got no bloody room, but yes, I'd love a Mark 9 Spitfire.
Yeah, Mark 9 would be nice. For anybody that wants the Condor or anything else, the best thing for them, it's like, right, I want a Condor. Right. The best thing to say to them is, right, I tell you what, let's do a bit of role playing. You pretend you're Corgi, and I'll pretend I'm you. Right? And I'll say, right, I want a Condor. You're Corgi, you're the businessman, would you do me a Condor? Well, no, I wouldn't. Well, why not? Well, because I'm not going to make any money from it. That's why you're not getting your Condor. All you get to do is turn the tables around on them people. And say, look, you pretend to be Corgi, what would you do? You're a business. Whether we like it or not, they are a business. They've got to make money. And they just won't do it on a Condor. As nice as it would be, you'd have one Condor. You've got some people out there. No, you'd have at least 5 schemes, and I'd buy them all. They wouldn't. They'd buy one.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of it's die hard by accident.
Yeah.
Not everybody's die hard. In fact, a lot of the die hard ones are now dead or retired and moved out of the country, and they don't do it anymore. And that's what it comes down to. Not everybody's got a mental illness like me and has gone absolutely crazy. Some people have a lot more control than I do. And will I keep doing this for the rest of my life? I'm there. I'm over the moon with what I've got. In fact, it made me quite disgusted with myself through the summer. I fell out of love with it. And James would be, he's one of the people I talk to about it. And when I've got all this out, I was really disgusted with myself how much I'd spent, because you talk about, we were talking about earlier that 240 quid for a Vulcan or a holiday to Portugal. Suddenly it made me realise what a bit of a selfish arsehole I'd been, because actually I'm spending money which could have been invested in Wraith, Sasha could have had, and suddenly I've been really selfish. And I've got this big shed full of aircraft, which is great, but actually it's disgusting as well on another side of it. But then the other part of me says, it's what I like. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go out. So I don't know. There's so much to take in. There's so much to take in this hobby. I think the key thing is, though, is like you said, James, is enjoying it, and having the platform like this now. 20 years ago, when Aviation Archive was invented, people would either type in for an old style forum, which are obviously now dying off. Facebook wasn't invented. There's so many more. There's a myriad of ways of now promoting your product and talking about the product. And we're lucky that we've had that time with Michael to come in and do an interview with us, and hopefully we'll do that again post Corgi Catalogue, which we'll talk about in a minute, by the way. Sorry, if you don't want to go to bed. I'm in at 6 in the morning, but I'm still good to go. Now I've got me 172 condom with me, James. We can practice safe talk. But I want to see Corgi. They've got to do something different now. For me, if they're going to justify these price increases, they need to be absolutely, to quote a Saving Private Ryan comment, they need to be Johnny on the spot. And they've got to be. They have to be, because they can't afford any slip-ups whatsoever. And they need to engage more with the likes of you guys, the hardcore I'm losing the plot. Collectors out there, the people who spend their hard-earned, and you're talking about hard-earned money. Actually, it is hard-earned money at the moment. Every penny is hard to, especially yours, James. You're at the forefront of in the health service, the world's worst pandemic in over 100 years. You put your arse on the line every time you go to work, and that's the reality of it. And you need to get bang for your buck. Put it that way. I just hope that they've got a better strategy rather than just releasing 3 catalogues a year, that they're going to do something bigger and better, because that's what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, none of us are sort of millionaires, as it were. So, even people like us who sort of put a certain amount aside maybe for diecast, it still sort of hits quite hard. And as you say, it needs to be special. It needs to be, bang, sorted. Easy. They need to go for that low-hanging fruit, the easy money things, like as you mentioned, the Johnny Johnson Lank, stuff, things of that nature have to be, they have to be done, because otherwise a lot of people are gonna probably walk. I mean, I think sort of before, the last couple of years we've had a bit of interesting stuff, but like before that, for like a solid amount of time, it was just the same old schemes coming out, being churned out, mediocre-ish sort of Hurricanes and Spits, again, year on year. But fortunately, it's picked itself up as of late. But yeah, they need to continue in the right direction, not go back to like just too much samey stuff, because people have already all got it.
Yeah.
What Corgi need to do is they need to keep. I don't know if people in Corgi stay there. They don't. I don't know if people move on, but times are changing with the world of diecast collecting. So when I first started collecting, the big thing was the Battle of Britain. Every diecast collector wanted the Battle of Britain stuff. It was fantastic. Now, more people now want modern survivors, so they want the Dunkirk Spitfire, for example. People want planes now that they've seen at an air show, or they've seen in a museum. Yeah, that's the new thing. That's the in thing at the minute. That's what people want. They want something they can relate to. They look at it and go, yes, I've seen that Spitfire, or I've seen that Hurricane. That's what's selling. Just Jane is
gold dust.
Yeah. That goes,
I'll get it.
400 quid on a good day.
Yeah. Well, it did. It probably goes about 6 now.
Yeah, it's iconic. And just trying to think, are there any Are there any survivors, any planes that are flying on the airshow circuit at the minute that are in diecast form by Corgi that don't sell?
That don't.
So that's now.
No.
10 years ago, it was different.
Not off the top of my head.
No. XH558 flew. Absolutely flew. Even though it was actually inaccurate, didn't sell great. But I could think of at least 30 odd schemes of current warbirds that are flying. I just think of the Flying Legends lineup of just aircraft that would fly out, absolutely fly out. MH434 we've already touched upon. Contrary Mary, Nelly. I mean, you talk Bouchons. You think a bit. I think Jamie mentioned the Biggin Hill collection. You know, all the stuff down there. You've got stuff at Goodwood. You've got, you know, 6 Hurricanes to soon be based at Duxford on its own. You know, you've got the stuff on the continent. The Messerschmitt Foundation, you've got the stuff at Meyer Motors, you know, you've got Planes of Fame in Chino, which could, there's just so much you could do.
And the toolings are already there.
Yeah.
So the
Flying Heritage Collection, look at the Flying Heritage Collection, the schemes and the aircraft there. Well, I say they've probably been sold and shipped all over the place. The Collins Collection, you've got the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia, Jerry Yeagan's collection, you've got Kermit Weeks stuff. There's so much stuff. And people go, oh, I've seen that. Now, I can't believe that Mustangs that have been released, and they're all beautiful, but not one of them is a UK flyer or a European flyer. You know?
One of them is. What? The new mould?
New mould. You've got Happy Jacks, which is a US flyer. You've got the RAF Silver one. You've got Butch Baby. You've got the... one. You've got Daddy's Girl. I think that's it, isn't it?
Hurry Home Honey.
Hurry Home Honey, yeah. So nothing's UK based. Yeah, UK based company. You just think, everybody likes freeze. Everyone loves threesomes, right? Anyhow, but you think the Biggin Hill trio, the Great Escape trio, and you've got Twilight Tear and Big Beautiful Doll. What's the third one you could do? You could do either Big Dick, Francis Dell. That's a real aircraft, by the way.
You see, that's a tough one, that, because for the trio, you've got Twilight Tear and you've got Big Beautiful Doll. Yeah. But you could make that a 5-ship because you've got Snafu, War Eagle, and No Guts, No Glory.
Yeah, but then you've got the 3 P-47, so that's what I'm saying. It's an evident gap. Do Contrary Mary, it displays in the bloody Ultimate Fighters. It's at Duxford most of the year. It's a brilliant scheme, and it's also the aircraft that was Big Beautiful Doll and turned into that. But then you've got Moonbeam McSwine. There's so much that I just look at and think that would sell. And you pitch up at Duxford with a Corgi stand, bosh. Oh look, I accidentally brought 100 Contrary Marys with me. Gone that weekend.
What baffles me is the new P-51. I don't know how many they've done in the new P-51, but of the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of P-51s that have been flying since the early 40s, of the 10 that we've got, 7 or 8, they're all bloody the 357th.
Yeah.
You know, which I'm not complaining about because they are the ones that I collect.
The Oxford boys.
Yeah, so I collect them ones, so that's great for me. I benefit there, hands down. But it just baffles me that they've just really focused on those, and then only.
It's either the blue, it's either the blue nosed bastards, the yellow and orange, or Duxford. You think there's nothing for Martlesham Heath, so you've got the red and blue diamonds. I don't know if they've got a technical term, but something like Damn Yankee. What a beautiful scheme that is! It's colourful, it's attractive. But then there's nothing from Miss Velma's squadron. There's only certain squadrons covered, but also Daddy's Girl. Was that not Ray Wetmore's Mustang?
Yeah.
I believe it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They've done Ray Wetmore in the P-51B. So I guess it fits
I've actually got it behind me somewhere.
Yeah. And why not do something different? Like I said, something that's, an Okinawa-based Mustang or something like that, a B-29 Escort, or just something that's, it feels like we go down the same routes. We play it safe. Now, there's some great schemes. Mustang schemes are just unreal. Some of the nose arts out there. I mean, the one talking about the Martlesham Heath one. There's one called Jackie. A guy had a Coyote who he brought with him from America, he used to go up in the Mustang with him on missions.
Yeah, didn't it
Coyote used to sit in the back.
6. Was it 6?
What a brilliant story! And this is what we're talking about. It's not just a plain Jane Mustang that was flown twice. It was something that had real history to it. And that's what I'm talking about. It whets people's appetite when people then learn something from something they bought as well, and like, wow, I wasn't actually aware of that. You know, it just, I just wish there'd be a little bit more adventure, but sensible adventure, not going mental and doing the one with all the the Reno racer with all the different, you know, like Hubba Bubba on or whatever it was, and all the different the shell and something that's hideous looking, something that's historic, accurate, and ties in. But
I'd love to see Nelly B, but I think it might be toast. The old Thunderbolt. You know, it hasn't been around for flipping long time. You know, but I'd love to see them do that.
The last one was Herschel.
Yeah.
The yellow and black.
And that was a US only release. Yeah.
The P47 is one of the rare ones that Corgi have done that's old, that has stood the test of time.
Yeah, it's solid. It's not as good as the Dragon. The Dragon is, for me, the pinnacle of P47s, but it's bloody good. You can't really fault it.
It's up there.
The Dragon's just got that a little bit more.
It's a great looking bit of kit.
Yeah, Nelly B needs to be made. But then, obviously, you've got the stuff. I think I mentioned them on the previous one. You know, the stuff like Tallahassee Lassie and stuff like that, and there's brilliant, some brilliant schemes. And
it's Pandora's box. As far as US planes go, it's Pandora's box.
Absolutely.
Every single one of them had something on it. You know, you could just pick a name out of a hat.
And it would tie in if you've got Lake and Heath F-15s as well. So, you know, again, it adds, and it's not a bad idea to do something that ties into another brand's aircraft. And I know potentially, you know, because it creates, again, themes. People like themes, don't they? And
because you could do Nelly B. Nelly B would tie in with the Hobbymaster F-15 that was done.
The three of them, all true. Yeah, Lake and Heath, anything Lake and Heath. And me Amigo as well, I think, wouldn't it, as well, would tie into in a way. Because obviously the fly pass and stuff like that, which then ties into that. So there's so much more you can do, you know, down the line. But again, you know, we should be brainstorming for them. We should all turn up with monocles and go and do a big brainstorm in their boardroom for them. And they'd have so much information, and then probably kick us out and not pay us. So
they wouldn't. It's
£80 for a Spitfire.
And they'll not do any of them.
No. Look. I don't want to keep you all night, lads, because I really appreciate you joining. I know next week we've got this is the final bit before we wrap up. So we've got the Corgi 2022 Cat. I'm going to ask you before we wrap up.
10th of January.
What is the one thing? Yep. It's for those who aren't aware, it is the 10th of January and it's a 4 o'clock in the afternoon GMT release. From what I gather, they're putting it all onto the website at one point, so it could be chaotic. It was last year; it took ages to load up, so just be aware of that. If I can get any pictures beforehand, I'll put them on at 4 o'clock on the page so everyone can see them. I'll speak to Michael, see if he can. No, don't know any leaks yet.
Leaks?
No, I've tried. I've actually kidnapped Michael the other week, but he wouldn't give anything away, so I took him all the way back home. No leaks as yet. Obviously a few hints. They did the shark mouth, didn't they, on the Corgi advent calendar, and they spoke obviously on the video, the Q&A, but they didn't really give too much away. So I'm going to go to you first, Sam. No pressure. What do you want to see in next week's catalogue?
I would love. Well, just the one. Oh, that is a tough one. I would probably go with. I'm going to say a retool.
Yeah.
A retooled Mosquito would have my attention.
Oh.
It would have my attention. In terms of like something new, I mean, probably something else from World War One. You know, but maybe another look at the Camel. You know, there's the things that I'd love. There's so many things that I'd love, but there are so many things that I think would benefit more from a rejig, and I'd be more happy with that there's something in the current catalogue than what's the new things coming along. That's just me. But oh, yeah, we're falling off. There we go.
Oh.
But yeah, I think that's it. I think the Mosquito for me, because it's just been done such an injustice. I feel at this point in 2021, I feel like it's been here for 20 years. You know, give us a new one, and I wouldn't mind paying. That's the thing. I wouldn't mind paying maybe 80 or 90 quid. I do have a problem with paying 80, 90 quid for the current one. I'm sorry, I can't do it. But if they did that proper had a look at it, I'd love that all day long.
It's a good shout. It's a very good shout. James, what's your baby?
I would agree with Sam. I would like a 172 retooling of the Mozzie, because that thing's pushing, 20 years now? It's showing its age now. It's showing its age, and the price is going up. So I'd love to see a new tooling of the Mozzie. That would be my ideal want. For a plane, I would love to see Polish Heritage Flight, Spitfire or Hurricane, preferably Hurricane. But with it being a Mark 12 Hurricane, would probably be difficult to do. But they did it with the Merlins over Malta, so it's not impossible. They just have to change the colour. But yeah, I'd like a Polish Heritage Flight, Hurricane, or a Spitfire.
That's a good shout. I'm going Spitfire. In terms of remodelling, I don't know whether it's going to be a 5, a 9. I'd love an 11, a 16, or a 22, or a 24, or a C-Fire, if anything. That's what I'm going for. I mean, says the man who's got no room literally left for any more Spitfires. And it just creates a bit of excitement for me. It's the plane that got me, it's the aircraft, sorry, I have to say. I get told off from my dad if I use the word plane. It's the aircraft that made me fall in love with aviation. It's the aircraft that if I hear an engine 20 miles away, I know it's coming. It's something that even to this day gets the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. You know, whenever I've sat in one, I've just felt like it's like something happens. You know, it's magic. Even to this day, you're 41, and I've sat in 5 Spitfires, I think it is, and every time I've sat in them, it just something happens. I don't know what it is. It's like I just feel like a kid again, and it's just the most magical thing you could ever do.
I don't know if. I mean, I've only sat in a couple. I sat in some when I was a kid. I don't remember that. But with the Polish Heritage Flight Spitfire, BM597, the reflector gun sight still works. So that's kind of cool. I don't know if they're doing any of the others or not. I've no idea because I've not been anywhere near the other ones. But to feed on what you just said, it does feel different. It absolutely 1,000,000% does. You feel like you're sat on the throne of a hero, and
the smell. I mean, I've not sat in one that's running. I've not been as lucky as Dan. You know, Dan who works now at Cywell, he's managed to sit in the back of the grey Spitfire while it's running. I don't think he's flown in it yet, but
where's he work? Cywell.
Yeah, he's at Cywell. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he's at Cywell. Yeah. Lucky bastard. You know, my mate Matt has flown in a Spitfire, a Mustang. Actually, a great story for Matt. I mean, we worked at Arco for a little bit, and he flew to Latuke on the way to, I think it might have been Hanawide or something like that. They were going. Oh no, or the Fertilay, sorry. No, Melon, where they do the French Flying Legends, and he went in the Mustang Sharky, and they went together with the Sea Fury T20, and as they were landing Sharky at Latuke, it got caught by a crosswind, and the left wing rubbed the almost ground loop, so it rubbed the flap along the runway, so it damaged the flap. So they had to literally just change the flap over to ferry it back. So he hopped out of the Mustang and jumped in the Seafire T20 and flew in that all the way down to Melon. What a lucky bastard! And he'd flown in the TR9 as well. I also think he's been in the Blenheim He might have even been in the Lysander. He's lived a very lucky life, but he deserves it. He's worked hard, but what a job to have, eh? And get a chance to do that. I would be, dare I use the term, and actually no, I'm not going to use it because I'll probably get it shut off, but yeah, I'd be very excited, put it that way. I don't think I'd be able to, I'd have to change my pants when I got home, put it that way.
That's it. And you brought it up in the last live, about the sort of Corgi bringing in like maybe a modular Spitfire, so the different marks with like different wings and stuff.
Yeah,
I think you're onto.
I'm sure.
I think you could be onto a winner. I don't necessarily think they'll do it, but I think if you could do that, because it might even, dare I say it, bring costs down, because you've got interchangeable parts. You can bang out a load of them, and it will just So you have different wings. And maybe even, I might be sort of going completely off tangent here, but include them all as a set. So if you get a box where you could have the different wings in, almost like an Airfix kit, but it's already done in terms of you can change up, put different bits on there. But yeah, I don't know. I think it would be a really good idea.
I love that. Now, I have a real trouble mixing scales, so I know Hobby Master make a lovely 11. They've not tackled the 16 yet, but I would love a Spitfire 11 in the NHS Spit, for example. You've got Peter Titeman's one, but then they did a pink one, the half D-Day stripes, to do a US one. There's so many different schemes you can do for a PR. Obviously, it's all going to be either blue or pink, but a PR Spit is 11 is missing from my collection. A 16 is missing from my collection. You could do the high altitude 7 with the pointy wings. Not the most good looking of Spitfires, granted, but also you've got to take into account that the PR4, which I guess there's not a massive amount of difference between a 5 and a 9. Obviously, it is an upgrade, but I guess it's workable. But the PR4, so there's a PR4 being restored, Sandy Spitfire, which is a PR1. And that's currently, I believe, the fuselage is near enough done on the Isle of Wight. That's not a million miles away from being in the air. I think 2024 is planned to be flying. Let's say 2 years away. Now, that's a great opportunity. But what Corgi need to do is jump on timing of stuff. So, you look at the Pearl Harbor stuff. It's turned up after the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. If something's going to fly, get it out and time it. Even if it means holding it back slightly, time it for when it comes out, so you can bring it all to life at an event or air shows. Or
I worry.
Just imagine the debut.
Like some of the Falklands stuff, it might turn up maybe in next December, which would be really sad because it's April, June. So,
Absolutely, completely agree. And you think like the Lysander that's just rocked out of Arco a couple of years back. The Lysander tooling's pretty fresh. Why didn't they knock that one out at the same time it was coming out? It made its debut at the September show, whatever it is. Rock up at the September show, 100 of them in the back of your van, sell them to people. Oh, look, there's the Lysander, it's made its debut. Oh, we've got a model of it for 45 quid, or as it was at the time. Easy money, and that's what, you talk about business and people making the right decisions. Timing and product placement, hand in hand. Now, you wouldn't release your Christmas turkeys in February, would you? Yeah. No, it's all about marrying those things together. So, look, gents, it's getting late. It's coming up to 10 to 11. First of all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to do another video at some point next Monday evening, which I know James and hopefully Christian can get on as well. And if you're free, Sam, I'll drop you a text to see if you want to jump on as well, because it'd be good to go through it. So the plan is obviously Monday afternoon. I'm planning myself on an early, so at 4 o'clock I could sit in my kitchen and hopefully try and add bits to obviously the page. I see Gary's boy Oscar's just joined. Hi Oscar, how you doing? Hope you're all right, mate. So I can do a bit of a live talk through pictures, and then we'll talk through it in the evening. Just need to tie up with our Australian chum. I'm sure he's gloating in Australia's absolute demolition of England at the moment, and hopefully he's not working. But look, thanks guys. It's been a really, really good chat. Hopefully you guys who've watched have enjoyed it as well, as we've ranted and raved, and it's been quite balanced as well, which I think is really, really important in this situation, because it isn't an attack on Corgi or Hobby Master. It's the world we're living in, but it's good to talk about it and get ideas out there as well, and hopefully it will make. Thanks, Jamie. Thank you for staying with us for nearly 2 hours, mate. Really, really appreciate it.
Alrighty.
Yeah, talking about that Tempest, by the way, Jamie, just to interject, it's actually with our good friend young Daniel at Sywell. It's not quite finished yet. It was waiting for a carburettor last summer, but I don't think the carburettor's turned up as yet. So it'll probably debut at Flying Legends this year, if it goes ahead. But look, cheers, guys. James, you all right? You still with us? Thanks, mate.
Yeah,
really appreciate it coming on.
Sam, James is nodding off.
It's the first time we've actually chatted in person tonight, so thanks, mate, for coming on.
Yeah,
right,
cheers,
long may it continue.
I'll share this on YouTube for anybody who's not watched, and I'll share it on the DWC page on Facebook. Much love from us three. Speak to you next week. Over and out. Thanks, guys.
Adios.
Take care.